In the post-Obama era, the Dem establishment happily elevated black voters because they helped hold off the burning left. I don't think the Democratic establishment has ever elevated black voters for much of anything, to be quite honest with you. And it's amazing to me how he says post-Obama, because apparently they weren't elevating them before Obama. They elevated them after Obama. When did that happen? But you also don't want to give black people credit for Obama. Like, that's also another weird thing. But if your argument is that elevating the black voter base of the party, then you have to acknowledge that the only reason you got the student loan forgiveness, the infrastructure bill. So let's start again. Then you have to admit that the American Rescue Plan Act, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the CHIPS and Science Act, the PACT Act, all of those things, right? So the investment in clean energy, Medicare negotiation, 15% minimum corporate tax, you have the student loan forgiveness. You would have to admit, if they elevated black voters and black voters were the reason why, in spite of what they're saying, that Joe Biden did get elected, then you have to admit that the advancements that we made as a party and as a country were because of black voters. But you will never give black voters credit. You don't even want to talk about black voters before Obama. We only want to have the conversation post-Obama, which is fascinating to me. The new argument is that we shouldn't call it white supremacy. We should call it white narcissism. And at this point, I would have to agree. While I believe that many people on the left practice white supremacy in spite of what they want to believe, their biggest cudgel against that argument is, well, we voted for Obama. We're the reason Obama got elected. They love using Barack Obama as a token, which is, I'm sure, the only reason why they voted for him in the first place was to use him as a token. So now that they want to engage in their racism, they like to spin that Barack Obama token. So in their minds, because they don't understand much of the history of this country themselves, just like their conservative counterparts, as long as they do something highly superficial, right? Vote for Obama, wear a shirt, say yes we can at the right moments, like the call and response of it all, they think that that absolves them from the label of white supremacists. However, white narcissism is effectively what happens when white people no longer feel that they're centered. The reactions that they have when they no longer feel, not necessarily that that's what's happening, they just feel like they're not being centered anymore. And then this is their reaction. This is their response to you as a black person. You're getting too much. Affirmative action gave you too much. Affirmative action put you into the wrong position and you don't deserve to be here. The Democratic Party is elevating the black voter base and they're picking bad candidates. They're doing all of this to just ignore the reality that many of them are fucking racist and sexist. White narcissism in this instance is akin to white supremacy, but it's a more apt descriptor because it encompasses the left and they cannot spin their Barack Obama token because that's exactly what this is. They are narcissists to their core. Any perceived, and this is all perceived because there's no evidence that this is the case, any perceived elevation of black people in this country, they take as a fucking threat. Every last one of them. Conservative, liberal, doesn't fucking matter. There are a couple of voter bases in the Democratic Party that shows up consistently. The black voter base shows up consistently and in large numbers relative to their population. The Jewish voter base shows up consistently and in large numbers relevant to their population. And the elderly population, no matter what race or whatever gender, shows up consistently relative to their population and in large numbers. You know who doesn't show up? White men don't show up. Why would white men not show up to the party that wants to get certain things done? In spite of this whole conversation, because everything is about Bernie, the Bernie left is just as racist as MAGA, which is why I don't fucking trust them. Because I don't care about what progressive policies that they're saying that they want to get done. Everything about how they have moved has indicated to me that most of them have no desire to actually get any of this done. They only want to see these policies enacted by the white people that they prefer. And they did not prefer Joe Biden. And I am still of the belief the reason why they did not prefer Joe Biden was because Joe Biden actually, when he said he was going to make a woman his vice president, he followed through. And they were pissed it was a black woman. And when he said he was going to nominate a black woman to the Supreme Court justice, that's exactly what he did. And I guarantee you they're pissed about that. And I guarantee you they're also pissed about all those judges, those minority judges. But the other reason is because Joe Biden, even with slim margins and a psychotic Congress, actually got much of their progressive agenda accomplished, and they can't stand that he was the one who did it. They can't stand that this moderate, centrist Democrat actually got their progressive policies done, and it wasn't their progressive savior, Bernie Sanders. They are the most ego-driven bunch of people who only care about these things if they're the ones to do it, because they are white narcissists to their core. This is why you see Gavin Newsom going to the right wing side of these things with these white supremacists. This is why you see Bernie Sanders going on these white supremacist podcasts. They are doing everything that they can to try to woo back all those racist white men, because that's who they want the most. The racist white men and the racist white women, they want them back the most to be the new base of the Democratic Party. And if those people come back, quote unquote, to the party, do you honestly think we're going to get equity in this country? Because I don't. I guarantee you, if they become the new base of the Democratic Party, they'll probably get health care, but your black ass won't get access to it. They're already telling you they hate you. This entire country and how these white people move, like, literally disgusts me, genuinely. They refuse to share power. They are not interested in equity unless they're the ones who are perceived to bring it to you. And once they have control, they get to decide who gets access to what. Because that's exactly what the fuck they're going to do. This is about power. This is about control. This is about white domination. This is all that this is about. Every last one of it. They do not give a fuck about equity. They also don't give a fuck about electability. They don't give a fuck about the racism. They don't give a fuck about the sexism. The only thing they care about is we have to be the ones in control. We have to be the ones at the center of the wheel, at the center of the conversation. We, the white narcissists, have to have everything centered around us. That's all they fucking care about.